Stakeholder.
In gambling, an independent party with whom each of those who make a wager deposits the money or counters wager.
A person with an interest or concern in something, especially a business.
In emergency management, any person or entity with a vested interest in the survival and recovery of a given community. You.
Welcome to Stakeholder Prepping.
Welcome back to Stakeholder Prepping, where you are the stakeholder in your own survival. We are your hosts. My name is Chris.
And I'm AC.
And AC, I gotta say, last week was amazing with Joe
Epic.
Flowers.
Epic.
I cannot thank him enough. That was just so awesome of him to come on. And like you said, we have a Q&A coming up a couple episodes from now. So get your questions in. And what do you say? The top 3 questions for Joe Flowers will send out some signature cards.
So I went and bought some of the Grim Survival Grim Workshop Joe Flowers signature cards, which are really cool. There's some really cool tools on these. And, obviously Grim, they do signature cards with some of like the more famous bushcraftery people, and they did a couple of Joe Flowers ones. So I went and bought 3 of those, and yeah, let's do a Q&A episode. So we talked about this a little bit, but you still have time to get them in. If you send us questions either for us or Joe Flowers, he said he'd be happy to answer them for us. Then yeah, the top 3 will send you a free Grim Joe Flowers signature card, and they're really cool. I've got them right here. There's knives and arrowheads and traps and all kinds of cool stuff on them. So they're a very cool little tool. But yeah, we'll send you one if you get one of the best questions for us.
Absolutely. Send us questions for Joe. Send us questions for us. Regardless of what it is, we will do our best to answer it. But all of this comes from you. So the more questions you send us, the better it's going to be.
Yeah, that's right. And, even the runner-ups, we've got cool stakeholder prepping stickers, and we've still got some handcuff keys from our friends over there at Shomer Tech. So we've got all kinds of really cool giveaways. I still have this box of freaking grease pencils you talked me into buying. So if anybody wants a grease pencil, it's like, I don't know. I think I could just take over the world with a grease pencil, a single round of 30 carbine, and a P38 can opener. That's all you need.
There we go. And I was actually super impressed with those Shomer Tech handcuff keys.
Really cool.
They know what they're doing. It just looks like a simple piece of plastic, but it will stand up to some punishment, and it'll get you out of some cuffs.
Pretty strong. Yeah, I noticed that just the wall of the opening, I thought, oh, there's no way this thing is going to hold up at all. I thought they may have been 3D printed, but I just don't think they are. It looks like there's if you know anything about plastics, like the way there's a tab on them, I'm assuming that they must be like injection molded or something, but they're very strong. I'm really surprised. And yeah, they are in custom stakeholder red. It's a color that you can't even buy these. So that's actually really cool. If anybody wants one, let us know. We're happy to just send you a couple.
We got your hookup.
Mm-hmm.
And speaking of hookups, I think that's going to be this episode, because this one's kind of interesting. We went out and scoured the internet and we found Kickstarter. So we came up with a list of different items that are on Kickstarter, either have funded, haven't funded. Some of these, it kind of depends on the cycle and where it is in that life cycle for Kickstarter. But these are actually tools that you can go and get off of Kickstarter and help out some of these smaller companies so they can create more and more tools, right?
Yeah, this was kind of cool. We had... we always try to kind of do a list episode every other episode, and I thought this was kind of a cool one to go look and see what kind of preparedness style projects are out there that people are trying to fund, or in some cases, some that are funded and they've come to fruition and you can buy them. And I'll be honest, I'm a little gun shy on some of the crowdfunding tools. I remember maybe it was a dozen years ago, there was that one, it was like the coolest cooler, and I had a bunch of friends that gave them a bunch of money to get one of these coolers that had like a blender built in, and then like none of them ever got their cooler. Like the guy went out of business or something.
Oh no.
So, yeah, and so I just got kind of gun shy about that. Yeah, I mean, you can get burned on these, right? I mean, it happens. So I think most of these most of these people are they're good people, are just trying to fund their project. But I think when it gets down to it, maybe they run out of money, or they figure out that it's too expensive to manufacture. So some of these just they end up never coming to fruition. But I had a couple of buddies that lost hundreds of dollars on this really cool cooler just because it like made margaritas with a battery. So those kinds of projects are out there. So I've only ever funded one Kickstarter, and that's actually on my list here because it got funded and I got the product, and now I like totally support that company. So I'm excited to talk about that one too. But there's some other ones on here that I hadn't heard of that just they kind of look like cool ideas that I may end up funding or purchasing when they come to fruition.
That's kind of what I found too, is some of these I was looking for ones that were still open or had been funded that you could still get in on.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've done Kickstarter before. That's where I got my laser engraver from. I
Oh.
also got a card game that my wife and I play together sometimes. So there's some cool stuff on Kickstarter. There is a risk that if you pitch in money and then it falls through on the back end, you know, it's just like any other investment. But some of these ideas could really go a long way.
Oh yeah, there's some awesome ideas. And I did notice too, I think there's some like there must be some amount of like Chinese, like just garbage manufacturing companies that are just like, oh yeah, we'll say it's a Kickstarter idea and see if we can get people to get in on it, like fake knockoff leather mini type tools. I found some of that stuff that was obviously just stuff made in China that they were trying to pretend was like a Kickstarter idea when it probably there's a warehouse full of like 40,000 of these things, and they're trying to get you to think that it's like a new idea. So I didn't get fooled, but there were some that you could tell were just kind of fake.
And that's something that when we look at these, we actually look through the details and see if it's worth buying. So, AC, what do you say? Kick us off?
Yeah, so I've got one, and this one did get funded, and you can buy it online now. And I like this one. If you remember a couple episodes ago when we talked about our bug out bag stuff, the advanced bag, there's a tool called a SPAX that I really like, SPAX, and that's made by Ontario, and it's kind of like an entry slash exit slash I don't know firefighter type tool. And there's a company that makes something. It's on Kickstarter called CTAX, CTAX. That's similar-ish. It's basically like if you took one of these SPAX firefighting tools, but then had a cop design it. So rather than like this true, like entry tool only, this thing is like a little beefier, and it's kind of cool. It's longer than the SPAX, and it's got a very beefy blade and a hammer side on it. So if you picture this thing, it looks like a hammer, like a long hatchet with a hammer back. So one side is the hatchet face, one side's the hammer back. But then down at the bottom, it has a curved pry bar tool on it. So it's got like maybe three sides, I guess, that you can use as impact tools. And then it also has that gas valve shut off. So it's a 4-in-1 thing. And just like the SPAX, it's got a gas valve. It has both sizes on this one. So it's got the 1/2 inch and the 3/4 inch gas valve wrench built into it. And something I really liked about this one, I thought was really cool, is that if you look at the head where it has this gas valve input, and then the other end of this thing, I don't know how long this is. It looks like it might be 18 or 20 inches long. It's got this 90-degree pry bar tool, like a very hefty pry bar tool. And that pry bar tool on one end fits into that 3/4 inch gas valve on the other end. So you could actually, if you had two of these, you could put them together and make like an extra long pry bar. Or if you had a sticky gas valve and you needed just more leverage on the gas valve, you could put two of these things together. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so you're really amplifying your work capability with this tool just by adding on a second one, right?
That's exactly right. And one of the things that's near and dear to me is when we talk about commonality of platforms and shared assets and things like that. So when you talk about your team interoperability, if you've got one kind of pry bar and I've got a different kind of pry bar, then we're not getting a whole lot of mechanical advantage by both of us using different pry bars on the same sort of thing we're trying to get into. But in this case, if if I'm like, hey, I got to get into something and I need a longer mechanical advantage on it, if you have the same pry bar as me, then we put these things together and we're like pry bar Voltron, then we just put these things together and now we've got like all this extra mechanical advantage. So I just really I thought that was cool that it was like it's a tool in and of itself. And again, you can tell this is something that, like I said, kind of like if you took a firefighter tool and had a cop design it, because that's very copy, is like it's this common platform, this common tool that everybody has, and you put them together and now you've got a more capable tool. So I thought that was a cool idea. That's what I like about this compared to the SPACs. It's a little bigger than the SPACs, so maybe this isn't something in a bug out bag. Maybe this is something in in the toolkit in your truck. But so it's about 5 pounds. The company I looked, it's made in the USA. It's veteran owned. The guy is a 10-year Army veteran, and now he's a police officer that made this thing. And it's called the C-Tax, which kind of sounds like SPACs a little. I'm guessing this guy has used one of these before. Has probably used a SPACs and said, "I'm going to improve on this tool and make it more of a copy kind of entry tool." So I really liked it. It was it's got like a Tonto style blade on it. It's got a really beefy hammer on the backside. It's got this gas valve and the gas valve wrench. And then, yeah, it's 18 inches. And then at the other side of this thing is this pry bar on the other end. And holy crap, it's like it's an actual like 90-degree pry bar. It looks crazy strong. And then, yeah, if you needed more mechanical advantage on something, you could take another one of these things and put it in that gas valve wrench on the head and have a 36-inch long pry tool, entry tool. So I just thought that was cool.
Yeah, you can get a lot of leverage off of 36 inches of.
Think about that. If you've got 3 feet that you can't break, yeah, you can get just you're getting doors open, you're getting car doors open, you're getting trunks open. So as a rescue tool, and then again, like a sticky gas valve, you need a little more mechanical advantage on a gas valve. So this thing, yeah, C-Tax, I'll put we'll put links up to all this as usual on our website and on the blog. And these guys, I'll put the Kickstarter link so you can kind of see all their cool videos and stuff, and then I'll put the link where I found you can actually buy this thing now that it's been funded. You can purchase this on some like law enforcement supply type websites. But it's a 4-in-1 hammer axe pry bar that has this a real kind of badass axe head, a really capable hammer, the gas valve wrench, and the pry bar. And then the ability to put these things, 2 of them together, I just thought that's kind of the thing I look for in a tool, like this interoperability and and shared
100%.
asset type thing. That's really my
100%.
jam. Like those are the things that get me out of bed in the morning. So that's my first one. Just a really cool thing. So I don't know. Yeah. What oh yeah, and I guess we should talk about like what these things actually cost. So it looks like this was a cool one where his goal was $3,000, and it looks like it's been pledged $21,000, and they're about $180. So I guess maybe a little more than a SPACs. I forget what the SPACs was. I want to say it was like around $120 or $150, but it does look a little more capable than that. And it is USA made, just like an Ontario SPAC. So that would kind of make sense. That's kind of what I would expect to pay for something like this, is probably somewhere sub $200. So that was my first one. What'd you find?
So the first one I found, I thought this was really cool. It's called the Eat Eye Mag, or Eat Eye. I'm not sure exactly how it's pronounced, but it's EAT small I
Okay.
Mag. And what it is, it's a silverware kit. And you would think, oh, that's, I've got my plastic spork, I've got my utility knife, I'm fine.
Yep.
But let's think sanitation. If you just gutted something with your utility knife and now you're trying to cut up steak on the grill, like, I don't know
Sure.
about that.
Yep.
But this one has funded. It's a British company, actually, and they had a 3,000 pound goal, and they are at 201,000 pounds in
Oh,
funding.
wow.
So this got some serious attention and
Yeah.
traction. The thing I really like about it, other than every piece of it is titanium, so you actually have less sanitation risk with
Mm-hmm.
titanium than stainless steel.
Is that true?
Yeah, so
Just because it's non-reactive or something? Like it doesn't
titanium
hold?
has so much smaller pores in the metal, bacteria
Oh,
can't stick to it.
interesting. Okay.
And it's a lot harder, it's a lot more durable, but they're magnetic. So the individual spoon, fork, and knife, they all pack together. You don't have clanging silverware running around in your pack trying to run away and, go find a new home. It also comes with its own carry pouch that doubles as a cutting board, which is pretty awesome.
Oh, I like. So wait a minute. So is it like a? How big is this cutting pouch? What do you mean? Like it's
So
like a piece of plastic that folds out or something?
yeah, it's almost like an envelope style. So it folds out into what looks like to be an 8 by 10 surface area,
Okay.
but it's durable enough it'll actually resist the cuts. And it's not just a knife, spoon, and fork that are magnetized and stick together. The knife piece of it actually has a serrated edge as well as a flat edge.
Oh.
It has a screwdriver, pry bar, can opener, bottle opener. It's also got a box cutter on it. And the handle of the knife, I thought this was really cool. It's got a peeler in it. So if you are trying to peel
Yeah.
potatoes on the trail, you've got it right there. It also has a tong adapter that you can slide the ends of the spoon and the fork into it, and you get tongs so you can flip
Oh,
stuff on the grill.
I have seen stuff like that. That's very cool. So wait a minute. So the knife itself is also titanium. You don't see a lot of titanium blades out there. I don't know why. Is it really hard to work, or is it the way it maintains an edge? I don't know enough about metallurgy why titanium is bad as a cutting tool, or maybe it's just because it's very expensive as a cutting tool.
It is more expensive as a cutting tool. The reason that titanium is not used more often is because it is very hard to sharpen. Once you get an edge on it, though, it
Okay.
will retain that edge. I've mentioned the titanium dive knife that I had my entire deployment, and the
Mm-hmm.
blade itself, once I got it sharpened, and it took a long time to get it sharp, but
Yep.
it's still sharp and it's been used plenty of times. It is more expensive and it's kind of a pain in the ass to get it to that point of being sharp. But once you get it there, nothing in normal use, there's not really anything that's going to dull it.
Got it. Okay, so that's the thing about titanium. And I imagine maybe if it's harder, maybe it is brittle, or maybe it's not something you want to use as like a sword. But hey, you just don't see that many titanium knives. And I like to do titanium is I've actually got a titanium one on my next item is titanium too. It's like something about titanium. Titanium for me is like titanium is for me the way that like carbon fiber was in the 1980s. Like if it's titanium, I'm like, just shut up and take my money. Titanium's just cool.
Right?
Yeah,
Right? It,
I don't know. I don't know what it is about titanium. It's just rad. Like titanium is cool. If I see titanium, I'm like, yep, I need to buy that. It's titanium. I
and
don't know.
I mean, they are relatively small. So, according to this Kickstarter, the length is 207 millimeters per tool. The width is 35 millimeters per tool. So, you've got enough to actually get your hands around and use it effectively, but
Hmm.
it's not oversized.
Okay.
Weight wise, they are 27 grams for the spoon, 24 grams for the fork, and then the knife and multi tool is 25 grams. It's super, super lightweight. And even
Yeah.
with that pouch, it's not going to take up a lot of room in your pack, and something that you're going to get a lot of use out of if you get it. Like I said, it has funded, so they are going to start shipping in April. And if you want to do the math,
Yeah.
one set is 49 pounds, two sets is 88 pounds, three sets is 124 pounds, and then if you go all the way to their 5 pack, that's 192 pounds.
Got it. So
So
somewhere just over $50. I mean, who knows what shipping is if they're from the UK, but that's cool. I like that. I like the fold out cutting board thing. I see what you're saying now. That's actually really cool. And I just figured out EAT. Now I get what it's EAT like eat, and then TI like titanium with the lowercase I. Now I
right.
get it. That's
Yep.
cool. I didn't even notice that. Yeah, eat TI. That's cool.
So that's my number
I
one.
like that.
What do you have for number two?
So this one is not funded, and I may end up buying this one. This is it's called the Hard Bar, and it's basically a knife sheath combo. But what's cool about this is the sheath itself is a tool. And I don't know why it took like some, Canadian inventor scientist to figure this out, but it's true that, oftentimes the sheath is a fairly like worthless piece of gear, like I'm thinking about on bayonets, right? You can turn those into like a wire cutter, right? You've seen that, I'm sure.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
pretty
yeah,
common
yeah.
on like an M9 bayonet. They've got a wire cutter, and
Almost acts like dull scissors just to get
right,
through wire.
it's just dull scissors, but it's still a big giant thing for just being a wire cutter. And then I'm trying to think. I've got a couple of knives where the sheath itself has a hole in the bottom, and you could use it like as a straw. Like you could shove like carbon and cotton in there and kind of make like your own little mini worthless life straw out of it. I've seen that, but never like this is a really cool thing. So it's called the hard bar. Like I said, the guy's Canadian, so whatever. That's I'm not going to ding him too much for that. But what it is this little knife, like he was a diver and he originally was trying to make a sheath for his dive knife. And so what he ended up doing, because not everybody is a diver, not everybody needs the dive knife, he needed to branch out, which is one of those really cool like Shark Tanky ideas. He's no longer going after the subset of a subset, he's going after anybody who needs a knife. And it's a tiny little knife. It doesn't look very big. It's kind of a pocket clip. You could even wear it on a keychain. And it's this little stainless knife that has insanely sharp. It's got a little pocket clip. It's got some tools in it, like a flathead and it looks like it's got like a little wrench in there as well. But the sheath for this little knife is titanium, and the sheath itself is a pry bar. So that's why it's called the hard bar. So he was originally just trying to develop a sheath for his dive knife. And then he said, not everybody needs that, so I'll make this thing. This is not totally funded yet. It looks like it's in the funding process, like right now. You could buy one. It's tiny, so it's one of those things. They make some comment on here that it might not be your go-to knife for everything, but it's like your sidekick. It's the one that's always on you. And I had mentioned a handful episodes ago, I think in the Christmas gift under $10 episode, about how my kind of go-to knife around the house is one of those just little razor blade knives, because so much of what I'm doing is just kind of like cutting boxes open and stuff like that. This is kind of like that for me, where it would always be on you. It's got this cool little sheath. It's got a little pocket clip, and it's just a tiny little, I don't know, I bet the blade itself may only be an inch long. But when it goes into the sheath itself, it kind of clips in, like it feels like it's magnetic. Like when you clip it in, you hear it and it looks like it's magnetic, but it's actually just the internal geometry of the sheath and the knife together that make this sort of clippy, locky thing happen. And I really like that. So it's a cool little knife. It's got a little bottle opener on the knife as well, and it looks like a little mini dive, almost like, I'm going to say, if you took a dive knife and it made a baby with a scalpel. It like looks kind of like
Okay.
that, where it's got like a skeletonized handle, stainless steel handle, but then a very small scalpel, insanely sharp little blade. And it's small enough this whole thing can go in your key ring. But then, like I said, the sheath itself is kind of the big deal on this, that it is a tool. It's a pry bar, a titanium pry bar, and it's got a little flathead on there for like a flathead screwdriver. So just a very cool thing. Yeah, it's called the hard bar, and I'm trying to see what he said he was, kind of selling these things for, but it looks like, they're not cheap. I think it might be $120, but that's Canadian. So what is that? Is that like $4 US? Something like that. I don't know.
I wish.
Yeah, but it's anyway. So it's it's like $120 Canadian, and it's this hard bar thing where the knife itself is called the Overlord. So it's their titanium pry bar is the hard bar sheath, and then their Overlord fixed blade little knife, and then it's got a little like a PVC. Looks like oh no, it comes with a little patch. That's what it is. He comes with a little PVC patch of theirs, but just a very cool design. So the the knife itself has a little mini pry bar and a scraper, and then that really cool locking mechanism where it goes in there and kind of feels like it's magnetic when it's not. It's got the bottle opener. It's got a carabiner hole on the sheath itself. It's got a little mini pry bar. It's got a pocket clip on it, and then it's got a little keychain hole. So for me, it's kind of funny, like watching the guys' videos because because it's just very Canadian, where it's just not really a tactical thing. It's just like, oh, like if you need a knife, but like they don't carry knives like we do. I think I just think
I
they
I
don't.
I don't think
You
they
know,
do, because that hard bar is really cool because you can actually get into some stuff and crank it open. It's not going to break
right?
on you.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So overall, this thing, it's about 5.25 inches long and it's about 2.5 ounces. So just tiny and just a really cool idea. Like for me, kind of the around the house knife or just the knife you just always have on you when you need one, like a very sharp kind of scalpel blade. So obviously it's not gonna do all of your cool knife stuff with it, but for a lot of what you're doing where you're just kind of like opening boxes, or you just need a really sharp knife for something, this is cool. And then again, you've always got this little mini pry bar on you. And for me, when we talk about like my EDC loadout, I usually kind of try to carry some kind of pry bar on me because like I'm just too stubborn and too dumb that I will always use a knife to pry something open if I have one, or you know what I mean, or if I'm trying to like find my knife and find my pry bar, I'm like, I can't find the pry bar, I'll just use the knife. Well, this one, because they're together, then I guess you'll always have the pry bar if you have the knife, and you won't break that thing open.
Yep, and that falls right into line with my next one, which is an EDC item. It is called the Orioner Z3, which is ORIONERS
Okay,
Z3.
what is it?
It's a 10-in-1 multi-tool, but the way that it works, it's actually got like a pry bar and an adjustable wrench built in. It has a nail puller. It has a set of calipers if you need to actually measure something.
Okay,
Screwdriver, window breaker, bottle opener. Everything comes with a bottle opener now. It's kind
of
of
course.
critical use. But it also has a cutting tool, and it's stainless steel CNC machined, and it's got a back clip on it, so you can just tuck it into your back pocket. It is tiny. It's only a couple of inches long and half an ounce, but the type of leverage that you can get off of this thing to pull nails, it's not going
Oh.
to pull like your heavy duty, 6-inch 2-penny nails out of framing
Hmm.
wood. But if you've got a small hang up around the house, your baseboard nails or something like that, it's perfect for it. Great for fishing if you are an avid fisherman, or if you need something on the range. Great little tool to have, especially with that adjustable wrench, because you can tighten down scopes, you can tighten down your reel to the rod,
Oh.
everything along those lines. This one has completed, so it did fund, and I gotta look here. I believe it was, uh, let's see, the timeline for it. It is getting ready to ship in
Hmm.
March
Okay.
of 2025, and depending on how many you wanted, they were between $50 and $130 a piece.
Hmm.
You get like a 4-pack for 130, which is not bad. Great gift item. I think they're fantastic. I think I'm gonna try to get in on this one, just like the Eat Eye Mag, and if I can, I will definitely get one and review it, because this is a really cool item. You
So
can
when you
also
say
get a metal case with it that
when
has
you
a
say
lanyard.
adjustable wrench, it's like a plumber's wrench type thing, right? Like it's got like a real
It's a small pipe
adjustable.
wrench, yeah.
It's a small pipe wrench, right? That's kind of crazy. And I guess that as long as it is like fine detailed enough, because I always think when I think of these big pipe wrenches, like they just always, the gap moves around a lot and that little helicoil in there rattles around a lot. But I guess if it's designed well enough and tight enough, then it won't do that. It's probably like a very tightly tight tolerance design then, right?
The tolerances are tight enough on it to act as calipers. So as you open up that wrench, it also has the measurement along the back bar to let you know how wide open it is. So if you're not
Oh,
sure
no
which socket
way.
you need, it'll tell you
Yeah.
10 millimeter, 13 millimeter, etc.
You can actually use it as calipers. That's
Bingo.
crazy. Oh, wow. That's really cool. That's actually a really cool idea.
So that's why it made my list. It'll fit in your back pocket. Like I said, it's half an ounce and a couple of inches long, so it's not huge, but
Yeah.
it's certainly something for your toolkit for the range, fishing, day-to-day travel, etc., anything you need, and you can use it as a Silcox key if necessary. You can shut off the pipe for the gas.
Yeah. That's really cool. And this thing looks very tiny. Like this is only a couple inches long. Like it's just a tiny little adjustable wrench. Like it's got a pocket clip on it.
Yep, exactly.
Wow.
So I'm
Yeah, that's
liking it.
cool. So you're saying that just funded, like it's just done now?
It did fund. It won't tell me exactly how long ago it funded, but they
Oh,
had
okay.
like a $1,200 goal and raised over 100,000 for it. So
Holy crap.
I think it's probably one of those things that we're going to see in shelves at Walmart
Yeah. Right.
sooner than later.
We are in the wrong line of business. That's crazy. You just need to figure out how to put a blender on that thing. You'll make $1 million.
Billion with a B.
Billion with a B. So my next one, this is kind of like a take on the tactical pen, and I think I am actually going to fund this one. This one is still open. It's called the Switch X, and it's the transformable modular titanium flashlight pen. So there's a lot of titanium going on here. We should buy stock in titanium, but this is just a really cool. I can't even really explain how this thing works, but it's this like skeletonized design pen. And I'm sure you've seen pens that have like pen tools where they have like a screwdriver bit that goes in and out, and maybe it's a little mechanical or a magnetic thing that holds that in there, and you dump all your little bits out and you put them on these little tools. This one has their super small little heads for the screwdriver, but they screw in. So they're way smaller than like a screwdriver bit that you have to drop into something. And
Okay.
it's sort of like a very tactical to practical type thing where that head of this, call it a pen, it flips around. And so you have access to two different of these bits at all times. So one could be a pen, or, like the other one would be a screwdriver bit, or one of those like soft bits that, or like a soft tip that you can use on like your phone or your iPad screen to move around, like that kind of thing. Or you can unscrew it and put little bits on it. It's actually got like a window breaker tip you could have on there. So that would probably be like the EDC carry one, right? That's the one you don't want to, oh wait, let me, I got to break a window. Let me dump out these little bits and screw this thing in here. So that'd probably be the one
Right.
that you have on it usually, unless you're doing something like playing on the phone or you need this flathead screwdriver. And then in the back of this pen, it's got a multi-LED little square, kind of half flashlight, kind of half area light, where it has like a blue and red blinky light. It's got a strobe. So it can be like an area work light on the back of this pen, or the thing can pull off and it's just this like like an emergency alerty strobe light. So a really cool tool with kind of everything you like. And I've seen stuff like this on Amazon and they're always just really poor quality. Like I've bought a couple of these flashlight pen things before and I've just never really been impressed with them, but this one happens to be titanium. It looks really well built. It's got some of this cool stuff on it, the USB rechargeable light that also comes off. And if you think of it like this pen, it's not quite round. It's kind of like a rectangular square thing because it's got all this stuff inside of it. But you could say stick this pen into something, like stick it into the ground, and then you could fold out the work light and have like this little standalone work light thing out of it.
Oh, think about
So,
that for glasses repair.
oh my gosh, right? Yeah, where you just need a little more light on a very small little project. Something like that.
Absolutely. That would be a
Yeah.
lifesaver on a camping trip or in a
Yeah.
bug out scenario or
Yeah.
even just around the house. I don't know how many
Yep.
times the dogs have knocked my wife's glasses off of her face and we've had to
Sure.
check the screws.
Yeah. Yeah,
That
think
would be
about that.
huge.
So it's they called a 9-in-1 thing, so it's got a pen, the stylus, the bit driver, a window breaker, a hex wrench, a pry bar because it is titanium, a box cutter, a nail puller, and a flashlight. Now, the one thing I want to check into this is I don't know if it's a TSA uh friendly tool. It looks like it would be because they always say under 7 inches. So I think it would be, although they say it's got a box cutter. I think what they're doing is they're just using the flathead screwdriver as the box cutter. So I think it may be TSA friendly. I want to buy one of these. They were looking for uh they were looking for $5,000, and it looks like this thing right now, the funding period is, I can't tell if it's open or not, but they have $19,000. So a lot of people have purchased these. But it is a really cool looking half tactical pen, half, you know, half tool. And like I said, I have purchased tactical pen tools before and I've been just so unimpressed with them, but this one in particular just looks really cool. Like it looks like it looks it looks like somebody sort of redesigned it from the ground up, right? Somebody said, I want a tactical pen tool and I'm not going to redesign something else. I'm going to reinvent the wheel because it has a lot of very innovative looking things on it that I've never seen in a tactical pen before. So yeah,
They
this is
actually put some thought and effort into the design instead of just throwing stuff in there
right
haphazardly.
instead of redesigning something. So looks like this thing is about 150 bucks. It looks like it's got an MSRP of maybe 200 bucks on it. And let's see, they've got a bundle. Oh yeah, you can bundle, get 4 of them for like $500. But yeah, I like it. I'm gonna look into these, and if it's something that is TSA approved, then it's a no-brainer for me because yeah, I've got kind of every one of these tools in a different pocket that I take through TSA. But this one has, it's got a strobe and a low and a medium and an ultra high light, and it looks like they do have a couple different colored LEDs. So if you needed like the low light red LED, that kind of stuff. So yeah, I just like it because there's a ton of different tactical pens and there's a ton of different tactical pen tools out there, and these guys kind of look like they just threw that all away and said, let's start from the ground up. So it's called the Switch X, and they call it the transformable modular titanium flashlight pen. So I'm pretty impressed with it. Again, pretty expensive. I think everything on Kickstarter ends up being pretty expensive until the Chinese knockoffs come out. But, but this is one I actually liked. I was like, wow, this is kind of, I have all of these tools, but they're in, various stages of backpack pockets, and I never find them when I need them. And I like that the stylus itself can be folded into the pen, because I have some styli. I don't know what plural for style.
Styly?
Styly maybe, moose, I don't know, but I have a stylus on some pens, and they inevitably all get ripped off, right? Because they're just rubber, and if they're banging around in your pocket, they're always going to get ripped off. But this one, the way that stylus sits inside the pen, you fold it out when you need it. I can see how that would live a little longer. So I think that is also a good idea. But yeah, just a sort of a redesigned, reimagined tactical pen. And I'm a tactical pen guy. I carry one everywhere. I carry most of these tools everywhere. Having these things all together looks kind of neat. So I might check these out and see if I can get one through TSA or make a $200 mistake.
Yeah, let's see which way that needle falls. So I know you said that a lot of stuff on Kickstarter ends up being a little bit more expensive than the
Yep.
original price and stuff like that.
Always.
This one is not that way.
Okay.
So $20 and you can get yourself a card game. Now the card game is called Bug Out, and it's a 108 card deck. It's actually created by a YouTuber who developed this game to help his family with hiking and situational awareness. So there are a whole bunch of cards in here, like first aid, travel, disorientation. You can pull the frigid cold card, and all of those will kind of force you to adapt to meet the goals of the game. So it's a great bonding experience. Again, it's called Bug Out, a
Okay.
family card game. If you have kids that you want to try to get into the prepping mindset, this is a great way to do it. If you're completely bored at home and want to run thought experiments while you do this, you can kind of create your own story to go with the goals. So this, to me, for $20, definitely going to be getting one. It's a simple, just card game, but you can really play out a lot of different scenarios and talk it over with your family, with your bug out partner. If you just want to read through the cards and prep yourself, it's all about getting into that mindset. And that's why I really kind of like this game is it presents that 10th man thought experiment style to prepping and being your own stakeholder. That's why I
S-
really like this one.
So what's on the card itself? Is this like a skill card where it says here's how to tie a knot, or is it presenting a scenario to you? How's it work?
From what I can tell, it's presenting either advantage or disadvantage scenarios. So it will give you, a 20-kilometer card that you are traveling X amount, you're traveling 20 kilometers. But you also draw a disadvantage card. So you're doing that while disoriented. How do you then adapt your play style and your storyline to best make an outcome out of what you're dealt?
Oh, wow, that's really cool. So it's really is like 10th man thought experiment stuff. It's like let's talk out this scenario. What's better, what's worse? This really falls into like some of your risk matrix stuff too, right?
It does. Absolutely, it does. And this one did fund all the way back in 2019. So that $20 price is their actual purchase price. And right now, the shipping on it says 3 to 5 days. So if you order, you're not waiting forever for a
Oh,
Kickstarter to finish and then start shipping you
w-
stuff.
is this an Amazon buy? Like, where did you find to buy this then? Now that it's concluded.
So we'll put a link up on our blog, but you can go to calclub.store,
Mm-hmm.
and that's where this link is. We found it on Kickstarter originally, but since this one has funded, they actually have moved on to their own site so that you can order direct from them.
Got it. And how much did you say it was? It's $20 or something.
1999
Cool. And what is the name of it one more time? Sorry, I missed it.
Bug Out,
Just
a
bug out the
family
card game.
card game.
Okay. Very cool. That's awesome. Yeah. So I'm picturing in my mind is having the, bug out card game together with the Grim Workshop actual playing card deck where you've got these card games that you can keep your mind working when the power's out and things like that, but then also sort of teaching you valuable skills and getting you to think that way, right? Like cards are one of those things. You don't need electricity. You just need light. You need firelight, and you can always play a card game. So I'm a big fan of just having that on standby and a card game that is also teaching you either how to think like a prepper or teach you skills that are valuable. Yeah, that's a no-brainer.
That's why I really like it. It's super simple. It's rated for, every age almost, as long as you can read and understand and comprehend the card. And honestly, the artwork on the cards, it's kind of cartoony, but it's very well done. It's not off-putting. If you don't like cartoons, you're still going to get the message and understand it. But it makes it a lot easier for kids to get there too.
That's awesome. Very cool. So I'll tell you I've got one more, and this is kind of near and dear to me because it's actually the only thing on Kickstarter I've ever funded myself. And it's our friends at Grim Workshop. They had about a year ago, they had their it's called their Hot Shot card. It's like a fire starting card. And it was on Kickstarter, and I already knew Grimm, so I kind of already trusted the company, and I decided to fund this thing. And then I got one of the early bird ones, but it's not like all their other cards in the sense that their other cards are pretty skinny, like they're pretty thin steel. This one's a little thicker, and it's kind of like a blued steel. So I don't know what's special about this card. They don't make a lot of them like this. It's a little beefier, but this is in like my EDC little wallet. I've got like a little cachet wallet that's got just some of the, you know, more advanced EDC stuff that I throw. Like if I'm wearing cargos and I've got a spare cargo pocket, I throw my little wallet in there.
More
And this has
pockets equals more room, equals more weight,
more
equals I can
stuff.
carry anything I want.
Yeah. More stuff, more pockets, always. No, so yeah, and you know, we talked about like my EDC loadout the other day. And the one thing I didn't go into is I have like a little, I'll call it an EDC wallet, but it's just full of gear. Like it's the size of a wallet, but it's got, you know, like a couple of little tiny first aid things in it, like some liquid band-aid. It's got you know, some like a little mini fishing kit in it, because that's not something I normally need. But if I was gonna say go on a day hike, I just throw this thing in my pocket and would notice. One of the things that's in there is the Grim Hotshot card. And this is pretty neat, because this thing is like I said, it's a little thicker than most Grim cards, but it is the same size, a credit card size. It's got a knife on it, a pretty capable looking knife for being that small, and it's got a little like striker piece for the ferro rod. There's a ferro rod in there, but then there's also an entire piece of magnesium in there. So not just the ferro rod, but an actual piece of magnesium that you can scrape off. So
Nice.
you're like making a real fire with this thing. I really like that, because not a lot of their stuff has a magnesium bar in it. It also has a little mini pry bar, like we talked about. The pocket pry bar is always a very cool thing to have. And then it has a pair of like a tweezers on there, like a very hefty, capable pair of tweezers. A lot of the tweezers Grim makes are, you take two pieces off and you put them together, kind of like those tongs you were talking about.
Okay.
And that makes a tweezer. This one isn't like that. This is a tweezer design. You pull it out and it has the inherent tension of the metal design. So to pull out like splinters and things, this would be a very good thing for that. And then it has a little mini, almost like a bow saw, like a saw the size of a credit card. But the frame turns into this little mini bow saw, and then it has the typical Grim notches on the ends, so you could put line around it, like a fishing line or like the internal line of 550 cord or something like that. So this little Grim Hotshot card, yeah, it was just a cool idea that I saw on Kickstarter, and I thought, you know what, I'm gonna fund this. And like I said, normally I don't fund Kickstarter stuff. I generally haven't, but I already knew who Grim was. I liked Grim and I wanted to help him out. And I funded this, and you know, sure enough, I got it. And they are now, if you can, we will post the Kickstarter link, but I'll also post the Grim link where you can buy this. And right now they're actually sold out on Grim. Not like they're discontinued. I think they're just sold out because it's just a very popular card of Grim's. They're about $24. But yeah, a good made in the USA tool designed by Grim Workshop. And I think, Chris, we have a discount code with them, so you're not paying $24 for this, right?
Yeah, you get 10% off with our code, which
Yep.
we will absolutely keep up on the website for you. So this is a huge deal, especially if you want to get a couple of them. You know, they might have to make a few more for you, but
Yeah.
anything by Grim is definitely worth getting.
Yeah, and this is, you know, I'll never say anything bad about Grimm's quality, but this one just happens to, it's like a little better quality than normal for them. It's a kind of a beefier card. So yeah, the Hot Shot card, it was cool because it just happened to be something that I funded on Kickstarter, came to fruition like it was supposed to. I got it in the mail when I was supposed to, and now you see them on Grim for $24. And I think, what is our code? Like, is it prepping? Our code with Grim?
Correct. It is
Yeah.
prepping. So
Prepping.
anything that you order on Grim, that 10% discount code is usually going to be enough to cover the shipping. I know it was for me when I was getting a couple of Christmas presents. But yeah, it's absolutely worth it.
Yeah. So I could never say anything bad about these guys, but this one in particular, really liked it. The Hot Shot card, it's built a little different than most of their cards, but for it's not just a fire starter, because it's got an actual knife in it. It's got a little saw on there. It's got these tweezers. And I think we've talked about this before, but yeah, if you were ever in the bush and needed tweezers and did not have them, I don't know what you would do. You can't make tweezers out of a rock and a piece of tree bark or something. You need metal for that.
You can try, but you're probably going to end up with more splinters that
Right.
require more tweezers.
Right.
So go for it.
Yeah. So tweezers are a very capable tool when you need them, and so this has them built into that little hot shot. So yeah, that was my last one. Did you have another one?
Yeah, so my
Yeah.
last one, it was actually created out of Atlanta, Georgia. So it is US made. It's called the To Be Safe Emergency Car Tool. And
Mm-hmm.
this one is funded. You can actually go to their site and we'll have a link there. Depending on how many you order is going to influence the price quite a bit. So between $34 and $318 for a 10 pack. But the thing I really like about this is it's not just your standard car emergency tool, right? So one thing that I constantly run into difficulty with in either vehicle that we have is figuring out the USB ports and where they are,
Mm-hmm.
but I never have a problem finding the 12-volt outlet, what used to be the cigarette
Yeah,
lighter.
you're talking about the cigarette lighter adapter, right? That's
Yeah,
just yeah. Okay.
that thing that I burned my fingers on more than once and should have learned that
Sure.
lesson as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
So this is an adapter for that 12-volt plug-in, but it also has its own internal battery. It's got a 2200 milliamp hour battery. So if you unplug it, it becomes its own charging bank. And
Oh,
it's got
okay.
USBs built into it. It also
Mm-hmm.
has a flashlight built in and a seatbelt cutter, as well as an SOS beacon. So if you are stuck on the road, you just pull this thing out of the cigarette lighter, which is pretty much always in the center of the car, anyways. So it's
Yep.
always within arm's reach. You turn around, turn on that SOS beacon, and it'll blink. If you need to get out, you know that little spring-loaded tip that's in most 12-volt adapters?
Yeah, the thing that actually that's the positive side of the 12-volt circuit. That's how it gets power, right? Is that little springy tip in there?
In this design, that actually acts as a glass breaker. So you just push it up against the glass and it will click and
Oh,
send that thing home and it breaks the window for you. So,
that's wild.
right? So your
Yeah,
battery bank just became your glass breaker and your seatbelt cutter
that's really cool.
without ever having to unplug your phone. I'm down.
And this thing, it's not much bigger than just a normal cigarette lighter adapter charger, right? It doesn't look that big.
It's really not. It's palm sized, so you can have 2 or 3 of them. It's a dual USB output. So if you plug one in, you can charge your phone and the passenger's phone at the same time. If you get into trouble, you've got those life-saving tools right at your fingertips. So you don't have to worry about trying to dig through, the
Yeah,
center console looking for your seatbelt cutter and trying to scrape everything out of there, because you get into an accident and stuff moves around.
right. No, that's a pretty neat idea. And so yeah, so with this thing, I'm picturing it's always charged because one of my biggest things I try to carry USB power banks like they're in my backpack, but then what happens is I need them to say charge my cell phone, and then I forget to put them on the charger, and then next time I need to charge my cell phone, I reach in my backpack, I've just got a dead USB power bank. So with this, it's always going to be charged because it's always in the 12-volt adapter of your car, right? It's always just sitting there, a cigarette lighter adapter. It's always charged. So if you need it, you pull it out and you've got the charger, you've got the light, you've got the SOS thing built in there.
And that's kind of the key piece, is it is always there. It's constantly charging.
Yeah.
It gives you 2 USBs instead of just one, and it acts as your power bank. So if you need to get out and go someplace, it's ready to go with you.
And it has a seatbelt cutter built in. So I'm trying to visualize how this works. So it must just have a little covered razor blade on one side of it or something. You use the part that goes into the cigarette light up, you use that as the handle and kind of pull towards you. Is that how it works?
Precisely. So
Okay.
it does have a safety cover over that razor blade, so you're not going to just slice your finger, but
Yep.
basically you just pull it out, deploy that cover, and then rake it across your seatbelt, and
Okay.
you're not restricted anymore.
And you said these are about $30?
Depending on how many you get, I found them
Okay.
for 34 MSRP on them is like 50, so
Okay.
$50 to 300 depending on how many you want to get. So
And is this an Amazon item or is this off their website? Where do you buy these?
this is again off of their website, so we're gonna
Okay.
include a link directly to them.
Yep.
It's not an Amazon purchase; it is
Okay.
directly through their site.
Got it. Okay, but this was funded. It looks like, yeah, this was funded on Kickstarter at some point in time. I was just looking back at the link.
I
Yeah,
think
so
back
this
in
thing,
2019 is when it was
wow,
actually
and
funded.
yeah, they got $12,500 worth of funding. They met their goal on funding. That's really cool. That's a cool idea because I like that it's something that's just always there. Like you never have to think about, oh man, did I remember to plug in my USB charger? Did I remember to plug in my flashlight? It's always going to be charged as long as it's in your car. And then when you need it, you just simply grab it.
That's the problem I always have. That and remembering to put my flashlights in lockout mode.
Yep.
I always forget to do that, and I have burned through some batteries a couple of times where I
Right.
thought it was ready to go, and
Right.
I forgot. Yep,
Yeah,
I
or you just look like that weirdo with the like a light coming out of your pocket, right? Like I've had that happen before. Like you're somewhere and somebody goes, "Hey man, there's a flashlight in your pocket." Like, well, that's weird and embarrassing.
yeah, and it is. It's like,
It is.
oh, I feel like an idiot.
Yeah, exactly that. Yeah, so yeah, that's pretty cool. I like that I like having that flashlight radio because in both of my vehicles I carry a larger than this, like big kind of a seatbelt cutter slash window breaker light thing that's kind of like a mini hammer. And I carry one of those, but it's in the glove box. And so it's inevitably covered by like 25,000 Starbucks napkins. And you'd have to dig through the glove box to find it. This, I know right where my cigarette lighter adapter is all the time in my car. You're right. It's in the center of the car. Either you or the passenger can grab it at any time when you need it. And yeah, you've just got this built-in emergency tool that's always charged and can always be your flashlight or your seatbelt cutter or your window breaker, and it's always right there. That's actually a very cool idea, just because it's always centrally located in the car. That's that commonality we always talk about, where make sure your window breaker is always in the right spot. Well, you can't have this in the wrong spot, right? It's always going to be right in that little 12-volt adapter.
And we talked about in our Blizzard episode, if you get stuck on the side of the road, you still have power to your cell phone, even if it can't charge off
Yep.
of your running car. So that's
Yeah.
a huge lifesaver if you ever have to extend your power reserves. As soon as you
Right.
turn the car back on, it's still going to charge.
Yep.
And then if you did have to, for whatever reason it was, I don't recommend it, but if you do have to leave the car, at least you still have power for your phone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Well, I think that wraps up for me. That was kind of fun. I like to go back over Kickstarter. I never thought before of Kickstarter being, a prepping tool. But there are people out there with very cool ideas that just need to get them out to the masses. And some of these actually look like a pretty neat idea. Like I think that the knife with the little integrated pry bar sheath that's something I would purchase if I saw that somewhere. If I knew that existed, that is something I would certainly purchase. Obviously, it's on the expensive side, but it's titanium and it's cool. But that's the kind of thing that I would look for. So yeah, a couple of these I think I probably will go help fund or purchase.
I agree. And, to the audience, if you have a Kickstarter idea or something that you think might be a Kickstarter idea,
Yep.
and if you just want feedback on it before you start your Kickstarter campaign, we are more than happy to help out. You can always send us an email to stakeholderprepping@gmail.com. You can get more information through our Facebook. You can always find our website, stakeholderprepping.com.
Hmm.
That has all of our discount codes for Grim and MyTopo and Contingency Medical and everybody that we have worked with so far. And that list just keeps growing. So if you want to
Yep.
be part of that list, we're happy to help out. But
Yeah, absolutely. And I think if you want us to talk about it, if you're in a prepper inventor and just want to get that out to the masses, we're happy to tell both of our listeners about it.
yep, you
So
can absolutely double your audience size by having us talk about it, because all four of us we'll know what's going
That's
on.
that's right. That's right. So what I don't know what we're gonna do next week. Are we gonna maybe try to do our Q&A episode next week, or do you wanna fit another one in before we do the Q&A episode? I don't know. Do we not want to tease it yet because we just don't know?
I want to give people plenty of time to get their questions for Joe Flowers in
Mm-hmm.
and give him time to respond. With
Sure.
everything that's been going on recently in the news, I think next week we're going to have to talk about wildfires and wildfire safety because everything that we have
Yeah.
seen coming out of these most recent wildfires has not been good. So I think we should definitely touch on that one.
Yeah, and it's timely, and I don't yeah, we'd done one other episode like this. We did the Blizzard episode, and you had mentioned that, Chris, that you wanted to do blizzards. That's something that's kind of near and dear to you. And at the time when we did blizzards, I wanted to do forest fires because that's kind of the one thing that I'm truly worried about. But I think we should drip these natural disaster episodes in there every once in a while. We did get some really good feedback about the blizzard episodes, so yeah, maybe we can crank out some research and try to do some good wildfire, tips, tricks, prevention, safety type stuff. I'm happy to do that.
We put in the research so that you all can benefit. So
100%.
I think that's about going to do it for today, but definitely come back next week. Send in your questions for Joe Flowers and we will do our best to get them answered and we will have a follow-up episode on that for sure.
Yeah, and if you've got questions just for us, I mean, like I said, best questions, whether it's for us or Joe, you'll get a free Joe Flowers signature Grim card just because they were nice and gave us a deal on a few of those. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Looking forward to doing the Q&A stuff.
Awesome. Well, we will see you back here next week for wildfires, but until then, remember you are your own stakeholder.